If we were to vote for the top 10 tough guys in the world, Clint Eastwood would definitely be among them. In his youth, he was incredibly handsome, and his starring roles in the Dollars trilogy became the foundation of countless Western films. Eastwood's image became an iconic symbol of an era. Even now, in his 80s and 90s, he remains active in the film industry. Most of his roles now are those of American rednecks. Today's movie is a highly rated work he directed and starred in during his old age. Colin is already in his 80s. Unlike other elderly people who are surrounded by children and enjoying their twilight years, Colin lives alone on a farm. As a true veteran who has seen combat, he opened this veteran's farm right after retiring from the military. Even now, he continues to work passionately in his lifelong career. He has dedicated his entire life to these plants, and the bonsai he grows have won numerous awards. In search of the right soil and water quality, the old man drove his beat-up pickup truck across more than 40 states in the U.S. In his own world, he had his own unique glory. Unfortunately, with the advent of the internet era, online shopping and industrialization impacted all traditional industries. With no other choice, the old man had to go home. But his wife and daughter didn't really welcome him. This was his own doing. In his younger days, he made almost every mistake a typical American redneck would make. He was devoted to his career, always away or on the way to somewhere else, neglecting his family. He forgot countless wedding anniversaries and even missed his daughter's wedding, and it wasn't even for something important. Get them drunk with such an unreliable past, it's no wonder he ended up with a broken family. His daughter hadn't spoken to him for 12 years. This time, no one welcomed him warmly. His wife, in particular, was sarcastic in public. "Oh, isn't this old Colin? Haven't seen you in a few days, and you look so down. Your granddaughter is about to get engaged. Didn't you say you'd cover her engagement party? Are you here to give money? Why are you empty-handed? Did you work your whole life and end up with nothing?" His wife knew exactly how to hit where it hurt. Every word was a stab to Colin's heart. She knew him too well. After a lifetime of hard work, he hadn't saved a penny. He could only verbally congratulate his granddaughter before leaving in shame. At this moment, a young Mexican man suddenly approached and started a conversation. He had overheard the sarcastic remarks and knew the old man's financial situation was a bit awkward. So he came over to introduce a job. He mentioned that a friend needed some reliable drivers. All they had to do was deliver the goods, without worrying about anything else. After saying this, he wrote the address on a piece of paper. This easy job piqued Colin's interest, and without hesitation, he drove off. This place is a tire warehouse. A group of heavily armed, tattoo-covered Mexicans greeted him. They loaded the package into the car and gave Colin. With that, Colin happily hit the road. The nature of this transaction was also quite strange. Colin only needed to leave the keys in the car upon arrival, take a walk, and when he returned, the goods would be gone. He also put the money in the locker. Soon, Colin found an envelope as per the procedure. The amount of money inside was so much that the old man couldn't believe it. How could driving one trip earn so much? With money, one feels more confident. That night, Colin attended his granddaughter's wedding and, as promised, covered all the drinks. Surrounded by beautiful women, he felt like he was reliving his youth. The joy of being respected and needed welled up inside him. When the Mexican guy came for the second time, Colin initially wanted to refuse, but upon returning home and seeing the farm about to be repossessed by the bank, he gave in and decided to deliver twice. After the second delivery, he not only redeemed the farm but also bought a long-desired pickup truck. However, he wasn't planning on making a third delivery. Money was of no use to him. But when he arrived at his usual veterans club, he found it had just suffered a fire. If no one could pay for the repairs, it would soon have to close. Feeling for these veterans, who were also quite poor, Colin had to ask how much was needed. $25,000? That's simple, just one more delivery. With the reason of giving other veterans a place to belong, Colin hit the road again. This time, the old Mexicans gave him a bigger bag and a new phone, and they especially reminded him to be careful. This made Colin suspicious. Why so many twists and turns just to deliver a package? So he stopped the car by the roadside, got out, and opened the package to see what was inside. To his shock, it was a travel bag full of drugs. If caught, he'd be looking at a 300-year sentence. Just thinking about it made him break out in a cold sweat. To make matters worse, a cop suddenly appeared behind him for a check. Luckily, Colin, being a seasoned veteran, stayed calm and used the pecans in his trunk. "I'm just here to check on my pecans. I grew them myself, carefully selecting the soil and water. It took me 2.5 years to get just a few pounds." The cop got a bit annoyed by his rambling, but things took a turn for the worse when the police dog in the car started barking. It might be a drug-sniffing dog. Thinking quickly, Colin grabbed some ointment from the car and rubbed it on his hands. Under the guise of missing his own dog, he kept petting the police dog, smearing the ointment on its nose. This trick actually managed to get the dog to bring the bottle. After resolving this minor incident, Colin arrived at his destination safely. Just like before, he left and came back, only to find that this time the money was 3 times more than the last. This time, instead of feeling the joy of receiving money, he felt a bit of tension from skirting the edge of legality. However, this tension quickly disappeared in the embrace of the Veterans Club members. As the current sponsor of the club, the others threw him a grand party. The veterans around him all looked at him differently, and his vanity overcame his fear of prison. At this moment, someone seized the opportunity and said, "Hey, our old soldier's ice rink hasn't been repaired for a long time. Brother Lin, can you fix it? Ice rink?" "Sure." Colin agreed without hesitation and turned back to his drug trafficking business. Sometimes, people's happiness comes from feeling needed. This time, he received with consistent deliveries, Colin's performance caught the attention of the drug lord. A veteran, a white man, who has been driving to various places for years without any fines or violations. He is practically the epitome of a professional mule. A mule is someone who transports drugs for cartels. These people often come from the lower strata of society and have no direct connection to the drug lords. If the drugs are discovered, they have no one to turn to for help. Previously, Colin only delivered a small part of the route, which wasn't very dangerous. The lower the profile, the better. To test Colin, this time he was given 110 kilograms of goods to deliver the entire route, with the group's enforcers following him. But the enforcers got more and more annoyed as they followed him. Why wasn't this old man following the rules? Didn't he know the lower the profile, the better? This old guy would stop to fix someone's tire, help people with directions, and even called 2 girls to his hotel room for late-night chats. Did he think he was on vacation? The enforcers angrily called the boss to complain, but the boss was very lenient. I don't care how many girls he calls, as long as he delivers the goods. He could call 100 people to reenact a historical drama for all I care. With no other choice, the enforcers continued to follow him. The next day, Colin took a detour to eat at a famous burger joint, which really annoyed the henchmen. As Mexicans, they stood out among the crowd of white people. Colin even lectured them, saying they were too uptight and needed to relax. But before they could relax, the 2 henchmen were targeted by the police. It's common for Mexicans to be stopped and searched in such places. Fortunately, Colin came to their rescue just in time. He told the police not to worry, explaining that he had hired them. Mexicans are cheap and strong workers, he said. You know, it's tough for veterans to find work these days. Here, take these 2 cans of sweet corn for your buddies to try. This move won over the police, who were almost ready to escort Colin with their patrol car. Along the way, many black pickup trucks were stopped and searched, likely due to an internal leak. But Colin managed to avoid all police checks thanks to his skin color and the relaxed demeanor on his wrinkled face. He leisurely reached his destination with the drugs. The 2 thugs were completely convinced. Colin broke the entire cartel's drug trafficking record in one go. This isn't just a rookie, he's the winner of our cartel's Golden Hoof Award. Colin was even invited to Mexico, where the drug lord personally hosted him and offered him 2 wives.
It's your pleasure. What would you like?
I want both. After the thrill, Colin found the henchman who had been following him. He admired the young man and wanted to persuade him to turn over a new leaf. But the young man was now a mid-level manager, determined to dedicate his life to the organization. Money, cars, and women were easily within his grasp. Colin felt helpless. He saw a reflection of his younger self in the young man, arrogant and self-assured, thinking he had all the answers. But he didn't realize that time heals all wounds. When the tide recedes, only an old man swimming naked is left on the shore. Perhaps seeing his own past flaws in the young man, Colin realized he indeed needed to spend more time with his family. He returned home with his bonus to attend his granddaughter's graduation ceremony. His daughter still didn't welcome him, but his wife was surprised. Oh, isn't this old, Colin? How do you have time to attend your granddaughter's graduation? This time, Colin wasn't embarrassed. He had paid for his granddaughter's tuition, and soon he would be home for good. Let me earn a bit more. Once I've saved enough, I'll truly settle down and spend time with the family. But as fate would have it, the police obtained a list of the drug trafficking syndicate. Colin, being the top mule, became the primary target for the police. However, Colin's vigilance as a veteran made it difficult for the police. He often acted unpredictably, choosing times and routes at his whim, leading the police to empty hotels multiple times. Additionally, there was unrest within the syndicate. Due to the police crackdown, internal conflicts arose, and the second-in-command seized the opportunity. The new boss had always disapproved of Colin's overly relaxed attitude, so he sent other enforcers to monitor him. They directly pointed a gun at Colin, ordering him to follow the plan without any mistakes. No wonder you've always been the second-in-command. Due to these restrictions, Colin was extremely nervous during this delivery. The police also obtained crucial information and checked the hotel where Colin was supposed to stay. But they never expected that the 80-year-old man was their prime suspect. Colin even casually greeted the captain, saying, what winter plum? It's okay, sir, you can rest. All right. The next day, Colin met the captain at the cafe again. He heard the captain complain about missing his wedding anniversary 5 times. This immediately piqued Colin's interest. The 2 unqualified husbands started talking about their guilt towards their families. As someone with experience, Colin advised the captain not to focus all his energy on work and shared all his regrets. If only he could start over again. Let's not talk about it anymore, let's move on. But halfway through, Colin received a call from his daughter. It was the first time in 12.5 years that she had spoken to him, but the topic was far from pleasant. His wife was critically ill, and he needed to return home immediately. Despite the drug lord's strict orders not to change the route, Colin resolutely turned back to go home. The wife expressed her dissatisfaction with her husband in bed. To outsiders, you are the charming, humorous, and generous heartthrob. But to us, you are just the figure always eager to leave. Colin finally realized how much he owed this woman and devoted all his attention to her. The wife curiously asked where he got so much money. Colin smiled and said he was a top gigolo, with wealthy women spending lavishly on him. The wife laughed. Don't I know your limits? Colin then revealed the truth. Actually, I'm transporting drugs for dealers. There's 300 kilograms of drugs in the car outside. The wife didn't believe him, but didn't press further. Colin stayed by her side until late at night. Until after the funeral, the daughter forgave Colin and cautiously invited him to spend Thanksgiving together. Colin agreed but looked worried, unsure if he would live to see Thanksgiving. The hitmen soon found him and initially planned to kill him with a single shot. However, the new boss ordered Colin to deliver the goods first, as no one else could handle such a large shipment. But this time, things went terribly wrong. Due to the strict enforcement of the drug trafficking route, the police, acting on a tip from an informant, caught them red-handed. Seeing the old man with a face full of scars, the captain, who had previously been very grateful for Colin's guidance, was speechless. In the police car, Colin told him that his wife had passed away and his daughter had forgiven him. Faced with this old man, the captain felt a bit of pity. He knew that an 80-year-old man resorting to drug trafficking must have had no other choice. But as a police officer, he couldn't turn a blind eye. In court, the defense lawyer tried to get a lighter sentence for Colin by citing reasons like his dementia and past service to the country. But being a tough guy, Colin stood up and admitted to all his crimes. He was eventually sent to prison, where he continued to tend to his beloved plants. His daughter promised to visit him, saying, "At least this time we know where you are." This old man, who had a life full of twists and turns, ended his tumultuous journey. He was released a year later due to illness and passed away a year after that. This legendary old man's idea of drug trafficking was simple. Initially, he thought money could buy everything, but later he realized that despite working hard all his life, he hadn't saved anything. This also highlights the life of ordinary people. We think money can solve everything and believe we'll make a fortune in this lifetime. But let me be honest with you, that's just an illusion. As ordinary people, our likely fate is to end up broke, neglecting our families, and living an uneasy life until old age. When we're old, we'll regret not having enjoyed life, crying under the covers while our children lament, "This useless old person has depression. Why don't they just die sooner?" By the way, this film is based on a true story. The 90-year-old top member of the Mexican drug cartel wasn't caught as easily as in the film. He smuggled drugs for 10 years and didn't confess in court like Colin. Instead, he claimed to have dementia.
Your nails and your exfoliated skin